My name is Peter Stückrath from SCHEU-DENTAL, and I'd like to lead you through this video training on the fabrication of a Duran splint adjusted with Durasplint LC resin. This training is intended for anyone who wants to fabricate splints on his own in his own laboratory. Duran is a thermoforming material of PETG with excellent properties in terms of breaking strength, elasticity and dimensional stability. It is clear, transparent and abrasion resistant. Due to its material characteristics, Duran is ideally suited for any indication in prosthetic and orthodontic splint therapy. Durasplint LC is a light curing resin that is used for adjustments on occlusal splints. You can use it for adjustments on Duran splints to increase the tensile strength. The minimum thickness of Duran should be 1.5 to 2 millimeters. For polymerization, a wavelength between 350 and 450 nanometers is required. Before we start, I would like to refer briefly to the technical equipment and materials that are required for fabrication. BioStar or Ministar S pressure molding device. Durasplint LC kit containing clear blocker for fine adjustments, LC primer to pre-treat Duran, LC insulation, LC burrs A, B and C, SD polishing pastes A and B, SD polishing brushes, SD felt wheels, and finally SD high gloss polishing mop. A parallelometer, LC6 light oven, Duran foil in 1.5 to 2 millimeters, isofolin for insulation, blue blocker light curing blocking out material, Silkit elastic blocking out putty, HM carbide cutter, a polyfix disc, and the brown Dymo trimming wheel. A few words on basic model preparation. The models must be trimmed flat. The use of a parallelometer to determine the correct splint extension and to control the insertion direction can be very helpful. For easier repositioning, you can grind a marking, for example a cross, centrally under the models using a burr. Then apply a thin layer of Vaseline to the bottom for insulation. Alternatively, you can also use one of the existing magnetic systems. Now you can mount the upper and lower jaws in the articulator using the recommended bite registration. Block out gaps or strong undercuts with blue blocker or Silkit. An important notice, do not use thermal waxes, since the temperature of the heater is too high. A note first, trimmed flat models or dental arcade models can always be placed on the model platform of the pressure molding unit. Place the model centrally with the front facing the pressure chamber on the model platform. Then fix the isofolin foil. The recommended heating time can be entered manually via the keyboard or via barcode. Once the heating time is entered, swivel the heater directly over the fixed foil. Visual and audible signals indicate the end of the heating process. Now, swivel the heater back and close the pressure chamber by turning it with a 180-degree movement to the right. Lock the pressure chamber to initiate the cooling phase. Visual and audible signals indicate the end of the cooling process. Press on the button Air to depressurize the pressure chamber. Now turn back the locking shaft. Then slide the locking ring to the left. You can now open the pressure chamber and remove the model with the isofauline foil. Cut off the isofauline foil below the desired splint extension directly along the model rim. Then, cut small incisions into the isofauline foil with a scalpel to avoid the formation of air bubbles. If you are using a full model with base, you should always embed it into the pellets. For the next step, I would recommend using the pellet cover. Now you can thermoform a Duran sheet in 1.5 or 2 millimeters. The Duran material can be cut roughly with the HM carbide cutter or the diamond separating disc. Another tip, it's important the splint is only lifted off once light curing of the Durasplint LC material is completed. This ensures optimum fit. Now the material surface is sandblasted in the area of the complete splint extension using aluminum oxide. Alternatively, you can also roughen the surface with a brown Dymo trimming wheel. Degrease the roughened area with ethanol to ensure a good bonding. Apply one thin layer of LC primer to the area of the splint extension and place the model into the LC light oven. The exposure time of the primer is 5 minutes. This time can be used to insulate the antagonist model with LC insulation. Apply LC insulation to the antagonist with a brush to avoid Durasplint LC material from sticking to the model. A tip, during processing, make sure to wear gloves to prevent skin contact with the cured material. Now break off a bar from the Durasplint block and adapt it to the molded and prepared splint. Apply just a thin layer of LC insulation to your fingertips and shape the material in the desired form. A thin layer should be modeled slightly exceeding the splint extension to ensure a smooth transition. In the next step, the model is mounted into the articulator and slowly closed for the impression of the counterbite in the elastic material so that the traces of the impressions are visible in the soft material. The desired movements in the articulator should be made only once in one direction. Repeated movements might cause distortion due to the easily sticking material. Now place the model centrally in the LC6 light oven. The material has to be exposed twice for 10 minutes. Important, do not use light ovens with a strong heat development. A note on the LC6 light oven, if you want to polymerize several splints, one after the other, we recommend to open the drawer for the cooling phases. Once polymerization is completed, the slightly sticky coating on the splint can be removed using isopropyl alcohol. Now you can start to finish the splint on the working model using the LC burrs A, B, and C. After grinding and checking the contact points, you can lift off the splint. The material should be reduced following the splint extension using the HM carbide cutter. Now, lift off the splint carefully from the model. Pay attention that both sides are removed steadily and evenly to avoid cracks in the splint material. The edges of the splint are cut with the LC burr C. In the next step, the surface of the margin area is smoothed using a brown dymo wheel. With Polyfix, you can do the finer elaboration. Before getting to the final step, you can pre-polish the splint with pumice powder. Good polishing results are achieved with the SD polishing brush, the SD felt wheel, and the SD high gloss polishing mop, in conjunction with the SD polishing pastes A and B. Note, you can skip polishing the contact areas to make sure the functionality of the splint adjustments is completely maintained. Finally, the splint must be thoroughly cleaned to remove the residues from polishing. So, we've already reached the end of our training. And finally, a recommendation for your patients are Citron products. For example, the Citron cleansing powder are the first choice for cleaning and care of the splints. So, now you know everything you need in order to make an LC splint. You can find further training videos on our YouTube channel. So please, don't forget to subscribe. Okay, till next time, your Peter SCHEU-DENTAL.